Origins of Polaris. The mistress of magnetism, Polaris, is the daughter of Magneto. One of the earliest additions to the X-Men's roster, she has also been a member of X-Factor and the Genoshan Acolytes. After being married for several years, Lorna's father, a pilot named Arnold, discovers that she isn't his daughter at all. While piloting a plane carrying his wife Susanna and daughter Lorna, who is 3 years old at the time, Arnold confronts his wife about her affair. Hearing her parents argue, little Lorna gets upset and starts crying and screaming for her parents to stop arguing. Her mutant powers uncontrollably manifest and she unintentionally rips the plane apart in mid-flight. Lorna survives the crash, but her parents do not. Drawn to the crash site by the magnetic pulse Lorna had unleashed, Magneto finds Lorna and orders Mastermind to rewrite Lorna's memories via illusions. The initial manifestation of her powers turns Lorna's hair from brown to green. She keeps her hair dyed so as not to seem different from others and become ostracized. It seems that there is a genetic defect in Lorna that prevented her latent mutant abilities from manifesting earlier. When a villain named Mesmero uses his psyche generator, which allows him to command all mutants in North America with latent powers, Lorna is drawn to him and forced to travel to San Francisco to unite with Mesmero. Lorna meets Bobby Drake while in San Francisco when he ices the ground under her feet, causing her to slip. Bobby was able to convince Lorna to come with him to his apartment. When Lorna finally meets the X-Men, they discover that she is actually a mutant with latent powers. Mesmero then kidnaps her, bringing her to his headquarters. He puts her in a genetic stimulator that activates her latent mutant abilities. The X-Men try to save her and it is then revealed that Magneto is the mastermind behind the whole plot. Magneto reveals that he is Lorna's true father. This causes Lorna to hesitate when an opportunity to kill him presented itself. However, Iceman convinces Lorna that Magneto is not really her true father when he brings up evidence that her parents died in a plane crash. Lorna then defeats Magneto, who would later be revealed as an android. Lorna joins the X-Men and takes up the code name Magnetrix, however, she did not like it and decided not to use it. Captured by the Sentinels. Lorna was captured by Sentinels when she moved to Manhattan. She was so shocked that she didn't have a chance to use her powers. In the Sentinels base she met Havoc, the younger brother of Cyclops, and the two got along very well. Unfortunately, Larry Trask, who was controlling the Sentinels, used this to his advantage and threatened Lorna to get Havoc to do what he wanted. After the X-Men saved Havoc and Lorna, she decided to join the X-Men since she was sick of being a victim and sitting on the sidelines. Also, she was growing attracted to Havoc. This strongly annoyed Iceman, since he had introduced Lorna to the X-Men and felt he had the right to pursue a relationship with Lorna first. Since Alex and Lorna didn't have full control over their powers yet, they were often given easier missions or left out of the action completely. Becoming Polaris. When the senior X-Men had trouble in the Savage Land, Professor X sent Havoc and Lorna to help them. During their introduction to Quasar, Lorna realized that she didn't have a code name, and came up with Magnetrix. However, she didn't really like it so stopped using it after a very short while. After their adventures in the Savage Land, the X-Men encountered a group who called themselves the Promise, who waited for the final confrontation between humans and mutants and only emerged from their cryogenic chambers once every 10 years. At one point when they emerged, they took control of Lorna and Havoc, since they hadn't been X-Men for as long as the rest of the team. Under the control of the Promise, Lorna first used her abilities to fly. Luckily, Havoc and Lorna were freed by a member of the Promise who didn't agree with the leader and prevented the leader from putting Havoc and Lorna in a cryogenic chamber. A bit later, Havoc quit the X-Men after a fight with Iceman over Lorna and didn't return. Professor X sent Lorna to go find him and ask him to come back. Whilst in the southwestern deserts, Lorna was mistaken by the Hulk for his former lover, Jarella, due to her green hair. The Hulk grew confused and angry and was ready to attack Lorna when Havoc appeared and managed to use his powers at a skill level he'd never reached before. Havoc realized that he had a good chance at being a hero, so decided to rejoin the X-Men. On the way back home, Lorna and Havoc were captured by the Secret Empire. The X-Men didn't attempt to find out why Lorna and Havoc hadn't returned and assumed that they wanted to be alone together and not rejoin the X-Men. After some time had passed, they realized that there must be something wrong and managed to find and save Lorna and Havoc with help from Captain America. The first time Lorna displayed hints of her full potential was when the X-Men were kidnapped by Krakow and she was part of a new team that was sent to rescue them. She was able to disrupt the Earth's magnetic forces and throw Krakow into space. Iceman would eventually develop a crush on Lorna, however, Lorna did not have the same feelings for Iceman. She ended up falling in love with Alex Summers Havoc. The two of them decided to leave the X-Men because they did not like risking their lives as superheroes. They decided to pursue their love for geophysics and moved to the Diablo mountain range in California. Lorna later came to be under the mind control of a Shi'ar agent named Davin Shakari who worked for Deacon when he was Emperor of the Shi'ar Galaxy. Shakari is the one who dubbed Lorna Polaris and first gifted her with her purple costume, which was a big departure from her original flowing green one, which she now wears a variation of again. Shakari would next kidnap Alex and put him under his mind control also. Shakari used them to attach the X-Men and attempt to assassinate Professor X. The two of them battled the X-Men at Kennedy International Airport in New York City. Lorna was eventually defeated by Storm, and Professor Xavier was able to free them from Shakari's mind control. Powers and abilities. Polaris once possessed the natural ability to manipulate magnetism. Although she had the potential to exercise all of the powers that Magneto has, as yet she had only used powers involving the manipulation of magnetic, electrical, and gravitational fields. Moreover, she could not summon as great an amount of energy as Magneto could. The exact limits on the amount weight that she can magnetically lift at present have not been measured, but they are considerably below those of Magneto. Since she has preferred not to use her powers in combat situations, she has not worked nearly as hard to develop them as Magneto has. As with Magneto, it is unknown whether Polaris's powers were purely psionic or whether they derive from her physically. Polaris had been observed levitating metallic objects and creating force fields in which she can suspend persons or objects in the air and in which she can protect them from attacks from outside the fields. She could also overload or short-circuit electrical systems. By concentrating, Polaris could perceive the world around herself solely as patterns of magnetic and electrical energy. She could perceive the natural magnetic auras surrounding living beings, as well. At one time, when her magnetic powers were just temporarily inaccessible, Lorna possessed the ability to sense and feed off of negative emotions. She could then transfuse those emotions into raw physical powers of strength, durability, and stamina. She was depowered by her half-sister after M-Day, but almost immediately thereafter she was repowered by Apocalypse when she was made into a horseman. As his horseman, Lorna could assimilate and release all forms of disease and sickness. She was then cured of the plagues which she ingested as pestilence, and in that respect seems to be back to normal. It was then revealed that Apocalypse repowered her using celestial tech and she again can manipulate electromagnetism. Polaris was confirmed to have her X gene restored in X-Men Legacy 259. Polaris has stated that these new powers are more difficult to control compared to when she was a mutant and far more dangerous. It has also been said by Emma Frost that her powers are apparently mutating. Polaris also has green hair due to her X gene. She still has green hair now because, like many other mutants, she keeps her physical mutation after M-Day. Power controversy. Reader submitted question. In War of Kings 2 it is stated that Polaris is a mutant again, but before that, it was unclear how the celestial technology was repowering her. I was wondering what Depa word mutants who have been repowered various ways are currently mutants again. Marvel editor Tom Brevoort. I don't think this is a simply binary question, it'll be different in every case. It's still not been made clear precisely what the celestial tech did to Polaris, and whether that amounts to reactivating her X gene and returning her powers to her, or finding other ways of giving her similar abilities. And I'd think this would be different for any other character who might have gotten their powers restored through some other means, such as the return of Quicksilver's speed.